Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Matt Birney are race number 8 at Indiana Grand on Saturday evening as the Grade 3 Indiana Oaks for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a 16th. Let's take a peek at this field. It is a big overflow race, and we actually have an also eligible in this race, the 13 Halawala. If she breaks into the body of this field, she would be very, very tough. But we'll talk about the horses that are entered that are non-also eligibles. Beginning from the inside, the number 1, Kim K, goes out for trainer Peter Miller. This horse showed good speed last time out from the inside. I would expect her to show good speed again from the inside. She is a stakes winner against Restricted Company in Southern California. And after that win at a mile last time out, I'm going to guess that Kim K's got enough bottom to handle this 2 turns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think the stretch out to this mile and the 16th, it's not like we're talking about a quarter mile extra that she has to go. I think she's going to be able to see it out. The question now is, do you believe the 87 and the 107 time form rating that she earned last time? Because those are far and away the fastest figures that she's ever earned. Maybe it was a matter of being able to control the pace on the front end. Can't help but notice both of her wins have come when she's either outright on it or pressing the pace. And I agree with you. She's breaking from the rail. I think you have one way to go. I don't know that I love her. I picked her second, and to be totally straightforward, I don't have a strong opinion in this race. I could see her winning, but at the same time, at a shortish price, I don't know that I'd be in love with her.
I picked her second in this race as well. We'll take a look at the Timeform U.S. pace projector. They believe that she'll make the lead. I think you brought up the important question in analyzing her chances. Do you buy the fig from the last race? I will, because simply it was her first fast track start as a 3-year-old. The Alcibiades overmatched. Let's throw that race out. She had shown some promise as a 2-year-old, and I have a feeling she's coming into her own for a good barn. And note, they always thought highly of her. She sold very, very well as a 2-year-old in training. Number 2's Drinking Dixie, going out for Tom Amos. Check out this formulator fact. Past 5 years, 3-year-old dirt routers going second off the layup. He is 20 for 49. That's 41% winners and a $5.17 ROI. Drinking Dixie, solid effort last time out, pairing up the Buyer tops at Prairie Meadows, but still a little bit slow on figs.
A little bit slow on figs. Running style for me is also going to be a little bit interesting. She's one that it seems like she does her best coming from a little bit farther out of it, be a little bit on the pace dependent side. That most recent run, the interesting thing for me, I've talked about it a number of times, you need to compare the figures and decide which one you necessarily believe in and whatever the case may be. And usually there's about a 20-point differential when they match up. Well, if you believe that, the Timeform US rating of a 101, you take 20 off that, a low 80, that puts her right in the thick of things, and that would just add to that formulator fact that you just laid out. I tend to believe the 70, though, to be honest with you, because the winner of that race most recently, she came back and earned a 73 Buyer. So it seems like those numbers on the Buyer scale seem to be checking out, but something that you may want to do a little bit more of a deep dive in yourself.
On the face of it, the 3 Shackled seems to be coming into her own for Dale Romans. She has won 3 out of her last 4 fast track starts. She's hit the board in 8 of 15 lifetime. But you want to talk about a Buyer speed figure that you might want to take a side eye at. That's that last race. I know she beat older horses and she did it on the lead, but look at those fractions. 25-1, 49-4 for the half and a mile in the 16th race. No wonder she pulled off a $38 upset. The pace should be quicker in here. The horses might be tougher as well.
And we've talked about it in the past, horses, especially horses that want to be forwardly placed, they're going to run their fastest when they're allowed to control things on the front end. And that's exactly what she was able to do most recently, setting soft fractions. To me, again, far be it from me to say definitively that she will never improve, but I have a difficult time after 15 lifetime starts saying that she's going to run anything better than what she just did, because she had everything go her way. This time around, much more testing pace situation, much more different dynamic. I don't like her.
No matter if you want to downgrade her chances because of the pace setup last time out, you might want to upgrade her next door neighbor. The 4 Sundays at the Beach, unlike Shackled, is also very lightly raced. We might not have seen her best. She was the beaten favorite behind Shackled last time out, and she was one of the few horses actually closing into those slow splits. This horse has not run a bad one at all on dirt, and I think could offer a little bit of value in the spot.
No, I agree with you. And, I like, too, that, sure, it looks like she comes from a little bit farther out of it. In that most recent race, agree 100%. She was pace compromised, and she still ran into it, put a bit in, and got a little bit close. I like that she doesn't have to come from 100 out of it. I think she can be mid-pack throughout in this thing and maybe get first run on any of the deep closers. And maybe if you get some of these speeds that can't see it out, she can take advantage. I agree with you. I think she's a little interesting at a price.
Most folks will believe that the 5 Street Band is the horse to beat in this race. Just look at the competition she faced over the winter. The Serengeti Empresses, the Leoras. Those horses ran 1-2 in the Kentucky Oaks. Street Band ran in the Kentucky Oaks. She was a little bit overmatched. She didn't have an easy trip. She did pull off an upset in the Fairgrounds Oaks 2 starts back, but that Beyer speed figure, kind of an outlier for her. I'm not sure I trust Street Band at a short price. Can she win? Yes. Do I think she has such an edge over this field that I want a short price? No.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I picked her fourth in here. She is a horse that could obviously win this race, no question about it. But it's not as though she has any sort of a tremendous edge on anyone in this race. And I'll also be very curious to see what Sophie Doyle does. Where are you going to position this horse? Is it going to be an instance where you get sort of back to those running style or the tactics from 2 starts back when you did spring that upset in the Fairgrounds Oaks, where you're a length or 2 off the pace early on? Or are you going to sit a little bit farther back? I know the pace was hotter anyway in the Kentucky Oaks, but I don't know that I love that idea of her being 4 or 5 out of it. I think she needs to be relatively close to be at her best.
I think a fascinating horse in this race is the 6, Blessed Again. And we've got a formulator fact. It's a limited positive data for John Prather Jr. The past year, turf to dirt 3 for 8. $3.35 ROI. This filly destroyed 2 fields at Oaklawn at this distance on the dirt. Then they tried turf against salty older horses. That Adores a Steve Asmussen horse that might have won 8, 9, 10 times in her career, and Blessed Again was pushing her in the early portion of the race. My opinion is that Prather was using that turf race as just a springboard to this, and this filly does have enough speed to stay close to the pace. I think she's going the right way, and I think she could be a good price under John Court.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything that you laid out. The other thing to keep in mind about that little turf stake that she ran in most recently, it was against older horses. And I know we're at a point now where, it's mid-July and these girls and boys are starting to continue to improve, but it's still a little bit of a hidden class drop going from taking on elders to back to your own 3-year-old restricted runners. And I agree with you. Look, those 2 races prior at Oaklawn, she didn't beat anything. The horses in behind her, sure, they come back and it's been a little bit suspect. She looked good in both of those starts. I think she takes another step forward here. I love that she can be close to the pace.
High Regard, the number 7. I wouldn't completely sleep on her. She showed some quality by being graded stakes placed as a 2-year-old. And 2 starts back, I thought that track at Churchill Downs was kind of speed friendly, and she just ran over the top of those horses as the favorite. She's yet to really run a fast race. I think Victoria Oliver is a really underrated trainer. And if this pace falls apart, High Regard can get a piece under Corey Lannery.
My biggest concern with High Regard, I agree with you, the way that she won visually impressive 2 starts back. I look at the 4th lifetime start in that Rags to Riches. She earned a 70, and in her most recent run, she earned a 72. I don't know that she's taken the necessary step forward from 2 to 3. Doesn't mean that she can't get a piece of this thing, but I'm kind of against her as far as a win contender.
The 8 Sally's Curlin sure felt pretty in blinkers last time out, rallying from off the pace to win her maiden for Dale Romans. Here's a formulator fact for Sally's Curlin. Past 2 years, 3-year-old last out maiden winners in dirt routes, 24% winners, and a $3.08 ROI. I wonder if this is just one of those situations where equipment change, the light bulb goes on, and now she's ready to fulfill her potential as a daughter of Curlin.
Yeah, totally possible. I also think, too, she had paired up career by her top. Say what you will, they were 61s as opposed to a 60. So, I mean, it's not like it was a tremendous move up there. But she did jump up to that 73 most recently. And, again, maybe it was a combination of the blinkers going on. She was ready to take that next step forward in her 3rd start off the bench. She's going to be a little bit of a price in here. But in a race that I don't think there are any superstars, I'm not going to talk anyone off of a horse like this. It's going to be a fair price, is in good form, and goes out for good connections.
Chocolate Kisses, yet another contender in a wide open race. And I think you could argue she's a little bit dirtied up, Matt. Yes, she got a great setup when she won the Honeybee. It was just a fast pace and a great ride for her that day to win it. But then in the Ashland, she's 4-1. There's no pace whatsoever on display. She's trying to rally from last. It didn't work. The Kentucky Oaks, just too tough. They tried turf, Cambier Park, newspaper of record, just too tough. This is a spot where she fits from a class perspective. Now, does she get the pace she needs?
Yeah, that was the big concern for me. I'm not sure that she's going to get the gas in front of her, that she needs to really accentuate that late kick. But she really is kind of, I hate to say X factor, but to me, she is the horse in this race that her best, I think, is better than anyone else's best to date anyway. Doesn't mean that some of these lightly raced girls can't jump up and improve and ultimately surpass. But right now, if she runs back to that Honeybee and she gets the pace that she needs, I think the argument can be made that Chocolate Kisses is the horse to beat.
And a formulator fact for trainer Mark Cassie: past 5 years, 3-year-olds turfed to dirt off a 31 to 44 day layoff, 25% winners, 2.5 ROI. With dignity, done nothing wrong for Ian Wilkes, a perfect 2 for 2. When an Ian Wilkes first-time starter wins, you better pay attention. And this one backed it up when stretched out to a more appropriate distance at 3 to 5. Now, she hasn't run fast yet, but I got to be honest with you. I like everything she's done on the track. This is the acid test.
Yeah, it certainly is. And to be honest with you, I think this is a really nice spot to try Graded Stakes Company, because we're talking the same distance she just ran at 8.5 furlongs. You're not dealing with any of the cream of the crop as far as the 3-year-old fillies are concerned. This is an opportunity. Get your feet wet. If you take that next step forward, which I think is totally within the realm of possibility that she does that, then you can start looking at Saratoga. You can start looking at some of those other races, maybe the Cotillion at Parks. But I agree with you. She's done nothing wrong in 2 lifetime starts. The pedigree is there. There's really not a lot to knock other than, you know what, she just does need to prove that she can handle the hiking class and run faster.
I'm expecting Marcelino Pedrosa to get aggressive on the 11, Bye Jay, who is stretching out for the first time. And she's not your typical Arkansas bred. She has already graded stakes placed in her career. The Miss Preakness was kind of just a disappointing performance until you actually watched the race. And the winner just ran. She freaked out. She ran just the race of her life, and Bye Jay was blown off the track. The Bayer's going down, though, recently. That kind of concerns me, Matt. We have a formulator fact for Ron Moquette over the past 5 years. 3-year-old stretch outs on dirt off a 45 to 60 day layup, 25% winners, 289 ROI. The horse has some stamina pedigree on the bottom, but I'm a little bit dubious about the extra distance.
I find it a little bit of a peculiar placement for the first time to stretch out, do it in a graded stakes race. But at the same time, as you already laid out, you know, she's already stakes place, graded stakes place. She's won a stakes race, one of those little Arkansas bred ones 2 starts back. I look at her and say, I suppose it's not crazy to think that she could handle this stretch out and really get back to one of her best races. I just happen to think that she might end up being better going shorter. I'm with you. I'm not 100% convinced that longer is better.
And drawing on the outside, the number 12, Sweet Diane, certainly has credentials. Graded stakes placed, and after the Fairgrounds Oaks, she was entered in a horses in training sale, and she sold for $500,000. Turned over to Eddie Keneally. I like that they just ran her in a 1X. She showed what she could do, very easily winning. I know the buyer wasn't great. Tough post position, but Sweet Diane, obviously the connections think a lot of this filly, and she's going to have to get into the race early lest she be forced wide.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult position breaking from that outside post, but you brought up that N1X. There was no pace signed on that day. She still rallied into it, got the job done. And for what it's worth, I know it's the 5th place finisher and the figure's not, giant or electric, but she came back out and won next out with a 67 buyer. So if you want to look at it that way and say Sweet Diane was miles ahead of the 5th place finisher, maybe this second sort of start for this barn, maybe she can take that necessary move forward if the pace situation plays out the way that they need it to.
Time for our top picks for the Grade 3 Indiana Oaks. Matt, where are you going? It's so wide open. You got to
really
spread
is.
in any multi-race.
Yeah, and I said it at the top, I don't have a super strong opinion in this spot. I'm going to go with the 6 Blessed again, for the reasons that you had laid out. I just look at her and say, to me, she's just kind of interesting in here. And in a race where I'm not super sold on some of the shorter prices in here, I like what she did in those 2 most recent main track races, that turf effort, as you said. I'm drawing a line through it, and she faced good older horses. And I think she might be a playable price in a spot like this. I just didn't want to settle for anything too short. I went 6, 1, 9, and 5.
I will put the complete kibosh on the 6th, Blessed again, by picking her on top as well for all of the reasons that you mentioned. But I would also have to use 3 others in multis. The 1, Kim K, who should show speed from the rail. The 4, Sundays at the Beach, who was probably compromised by a lack of pace last time out. And the X Factor, the 10 with Dignity, who is perfect from 2 starts. So 6, 1, 4, 10 for me in the Grade 3 Indiana Oaks. What a war at Indiana Grand on Saturday night. Approximate post time, 9:10 Eastern. Don't you dare miss it.